Start. Good morning, friends, and welcome to our series on taking care of our youth. I hope you have started thinking about the various important aspects of our theme. We have a long way to go yet. We will take our steps slowly. It's important that at each step we understand something of very basic value so that when we build the mansion of our personality, we build sensibly and build it strong so that our life endures the stress and strain that living in the present context always brings upon us. You know better than I do that we are living at a time when thousands and thousands of young men and women are committing suicide. As per government statistics in India, about 150,000 people commit suicide annually. Social scientists tell me that because of the stigma attached to suicide, only 1 case out of 5 actual suicides will be reported, which actually means that the actual number of people who take their life is in the vicinity of 7 lakhs, 7.5 lakhs. Now that's a huge tragedy. Why does it happen? And that is something that we need to look at. People kill themselves when they feel that their life is not worth it anymore. Life is the greatest value a human being can have. Then how does it come about that it becomes such a worthless burden that young people want to destroy it? And this is something that looms large in the horizon of modern life, and therefore we need to keep that also as the background of our thinking. And this is one of the reasons why I do programs like this. Now, in order to give you a flavor of what I'm sharing with you, today I want to begin by giving you some impression, some idea about my own life. Because after all, a person says what he is. Whatever I am sharing with you and whatever I will ever share with you is what I have learned from my own life. So it's important for you that you know me as a human being. I'm sharing some of these things with you in the hope that these things encourage you. I was born and brought up in poverty. You can imagine what kind of poverty it was. There was absolutely nothing promising in the beginning of my life. There was hardly enough food to eat. There was no book to read. There was no stimulating intellectual company. I studied in the most common of schools without any facilities whatsoever, except loving teachers who always encouraged me, and I still retain a warm gratitude towards each one of them. And I did not have anyone to guide me except my own mother, for whom I retain absolute respect even at this age, because she did her best. And she gave me this impression that I was a valuable human being. And she used to say, "Son, there is light within you. Time will bring it out." This is what she used to say. And I latched onto it. I held on to it as my life support system. I studied in a lower primary school in my village, Kallamala, and went on to Bishop Hodges School, Mavelikara. And from there went to Bishop Moore College, which was just being established. Even my college did not have a library. A library was being created when I was studying there. So I was intellectually starved. But again, there were a few teachers, among them Professor Nanan Koshi, who was the head of the English department, who stands out as a major intellectual influence on me. But then I had the good fortune to go to St. Stephen's College, Delhi. But when I went there, I was completely lost. I was just not ready. I have to say this, that the difference in standards of education between Kerala and Delhi is shocking. In the first couple of months, I could not understand what my professors in the university were saying in their lectures. I nearly thought of running away from there. But I decided to stick it out, and I worked and worked and worked like one possessed. And to cut a long story short, I mastered the language in less than 6 months, and I was then ahead of the pack. And from there until now, by the grace of God, my life has been a great adventure. A language that I had never heard spoken in my house or in my neighborhood became my passport to the rest of the world. And I will not now go into the details of wherever I have gone, the levels I reached, the people I addressed, all the rest of it. Maybe sometime, occasionally, there will be opportunities to refer to it. Now, why I am sharing this very brief summary of a long journey is this. The one most powerful lesson in my life is that you don't have to be constrained, limited, held back by the limitations of your circumstances. External circumstances need not define you, need not paralyze you, need not hold you back. You have the power in you to triumph over your circumstances. And in fact, and that's the greatest thing in my life, to turn these very hindrances, these very limitations into your advantage. And they become the stepping stones to something higher. Now, very briefly, let me say this to you, that in the mystery of human life, there is a definite place for hardships and suffering. This I need to emphasize because this is quite contrary to what people think today. Everybody has an idea of what is good life. People think that a good life is a life free from all stress and strain, all struggle and all challenges. That's just not the case. It's a boring and bland life. It's something I don't want for myself. I would like hardships, difficulties, challenges, problems that I can face, and face in such a way that by facing and overcoming them, I take a step forward in my life. And therefore, when I look back on my life, especially in the early tentative days of my life, I thank God for the difficulties, awesome difficulties that I had to grapple with. And they made me stronger. They made me humbler. They made me open to the possibilities of life. For example, poverty taught me that every small scrap of paper, every piece of straw, every pencil, every blade of grass is valuable. Everything becomes valuable in the light of poverty. Everything becomes rubbish through the eyes of affluence. And that is something that became of immense value in my life as an author. Today, when I look at a piece of paper, when I look at a news item, when I look at a casual statement made by someone, I know that it connects to something very important in my philosophical life. So the great blessing of poverty is that it opens your eyes to the value of what otherwise would seem to be worthless and unimportant. And this makes me share with you the sad fact that today many people walk over unthinkingly treasures of life. At every step, we're actually walking on treasures. But we keep our eyes closed and we walk along because our mind is engaged somewhere else. We're not really engaged with life. We're engaged towards the small little trinkets that the market may offer. And this is what blinds us to the beauty of life. So from my experience, my personal life, I want to encourage you, especially those of you who think that you are in a state of underprivilege, that compared to your friends, you don't have the financial resources to afford the facilities that you deserve. That's not the case at all. Actually, you could be at a great advantage. So, the strength of a human being is not in sitting comfortably over favorable circumstances, which anybody can do. The strength of a human being is in accepting a situation as it is, no matter what that situation is, and in entering into the fullness of its possibilities. Every situation has possibilities that are truly exciting. But you don't see those possibilities in full before you enter it. Life is often compared to a journey for a good reason. Now, as you walk along a landscape, at the beginning of your walk, you don't see everything. As you take each step forward, you see more and more and more of this landscape. And that's what life is. Now, very often people stand on the threshold of an opportunity and say, oh, what does it have to offer? How do you know what does it have to offer? So my request, my advice to young people is, accept what life offers, but make it what you can, using your strengths, your imagination, your spiritual powers. And this is exactly where spiritual powers come in. Spiritual powers are irrelevant to the life of a person who leads a routine life. You don't need spiritual powers to eat 3 meals a day. You don't actually need spiritual powers to compete in the markets of the world. You don't need spiritual powers to outwit a fellow human being. But you definitely need spiritual powers to see hidden possibilities and to cultivate the strength to endure the struggle it takes to pursue those possibilities until you make them real. That's called spiritual power. And this is something that is of extreme importance, particularly in our times. And I thought I would commend this to you based on my own personal experience. If I did not have that strength, I wonder where I would have ended up. If I had cast myself in the role of a victim of circumstances, which many people do, I would have destroyed myself. No, God gave me the strength and the wisdom to believe that from Him we can derive the strength to triumph over our circumstances. And once you do that, it gives you the kind of confidence that no power in the world can neutralize. My life all along has been a great struggle. Those who know me will readily agree with it. It's been a great battle. But at each step, this was my strength. I knew, as a verse in the Bible says, weeping may come at night and endure through the night, but joy comes in the morning. But you have to endure the night to be able to see the joy that comes in the morning. If you lose heart, if you give up your struggle, when the night endures or before the night ends, you will never live to see the joy that comes in the morning. So my humble request to all of you is to bide your time. Life will confront you with difficulties because, as I said, these are the media. Do that. Always see not only the night that endures, but also the morning that's about to come. So life's great, but strengthen yourself. Develop the inner resources that it takes to face the full face of life, to endure its pressure, its thrust, and to continue your journey as victors and not as victims. So see you soon in the next unit.